We're live.
There we go.
All right, so let's call to order the Communications Committee. It is Friday, October 7th at 9:11 a.m. Our first order of business is approval of the September 2022 meeting minutes. So if I can get a motion.
I motion that we approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, so I'll make the motion if someone wants to second it. Move that the Communications Committee approve the September 2022 meeting minutes.
Steve seconded.
Oh,
I second.
Yeah.
all right, moving right along. All right, so next order of business, Dan, website transition update.
Yes. So I've been working with Gabbert Communications on getting the finalized what they call mock-ups for the design of the site, and then they applied the template that I had discussed with them over to a temporary site where they will now begin the process of transitioning or copying things from our current website over to our preview site. We still have some things that I'm working on with them, such as the horizontal menu. I want to kind of make things a little bit easier to navigate to. One of them specifically is visual and performing arts, because visual and performing arts is a K-12 department. It doesn't reside within one school, so they should be pulled out and almost as a separate feature. So we're just working on organization. But I did want to show you two mock-ups of the website, just so you know. So hang on one second. So first thing, okay. Okay, so this is the finalized mock-up of our website. And the reason why I'm just showing you this before I show you the fully live, I'm going to call it, quote, live preview site, is because see how this says Instagram stack? So I wanted to show you how the front picture wheel would look via Instagram. And their live site, they have not applied what they're calling the Instagram stack to our live site yet. So, but this is what the live Instagram feed will look like. So it's, 5 pictures rotating. I really like the style of this. I actually like this better than the Instagram feed on our current webpage. It takes up a nice amount of space. It doesn't take up too much space. Like we had mentioned the first time last month, when it was the stagnant pictures that you actually uploaded to the website, it was huge. And I didn't like that people had to scroll too far down to get to any kind of valuable links or information. So this will ultimately be the Instagram feed. So now let me take you to the live site. So this is the live site. Again, imagine that this front building picture is now going to be the Instagram feed. But this is the overall theme of the new web page. So these hot quick buttons: culinary services, district calendar, transportation, superintendent's update, budget, and communication protocols will be the same regardless of what school you go to. So we try to determine the most important and visited pages, or the most information-driven pages, and that's why we put the communication protocols on there, because that's always been an important piece, is who do families call in the event of what issue is going on. And this horizontal menu will be changing for the main page. And I don't want to bore you to death, but we are going to try to make it, again, way more user-friendly to get to when you're right on the district page. So there's going to be like a schools menu. There's going to be a departments menu, and in the departments menu will be embedded, athletics. There's going to be business, technology. And that's where we'll also put visual and performing arts. We'll cross-link visual and performing arts underneath each specific school as well. And they also have an external website, so we'll be linking to the external website. That's how we buy tickets and stuff. Scrolling
Yeah.
down.
Wait, Dan, what, at the very top, what is
Yes.
the purpose of district and campus?
So that's probably going to go away. This is for large school districts like Miami-Dade County type of districts where there's hundreds of schools and they call there's certain school sections a campus. So that's going to go away. Also think about like university, right? So universities that have multiple campuses. So that's going to go away. Join our team. COVID-19 info is going to be up top. PowerSchool login, prospective residents, and then language to make sure that we're compliant with all the state statutes on language requirements and ADA compliance.
What are the language requirements?
We have to be able to provide the website to be translated into multiple languages. So that's a relatively new, I don't want to say mandate, but highly recommended from the state of Connecticut that we should be able to translate seamlessly our website into, they identified specific languages. I forgot what the major ones are. This is more, but I know Spanish and French were two of the big ones that they wanted us to be able to translate to.
And so this site automatically translates it. If you just click there, everything that we put in here is automatically translated correctly into a foreign language?
Yeah, as correct as possible. Obviously, there's always going to be some loss in translation, but it's pretty good.
And Sharon, we nominated you to do the proofreading.
Well, I'm only going to do it no, I'm teasing.
And Dan, I know this is minor, but communication was my major. When we have pictures on the website, we're going to make sure the pictures don't do things like include Lisa's speedster, right? I see her cart, her golf cart in that picture. There was that stop, don't park here sign in the middle of the high school, right?
That's why I was saying it's going to be the Instagram feed.
Okay.
This is just a placeholder. This is going to go away. Yeah, because I remember last time, like, I was like, oh man, if we did this, I'd have to like Photoshop out the do not parking sign. Right. And why you don't like her? You don't like Lisa's golf cart here? I think that's very welcoming. But no, don't worry. It's going to be the Instagram pictures on the front page and not stagnant pictures that have to be uploaded to the website, because they would just it would end up becoming old. Doing this for a few years now, whenever you have a website and you have to specifically upload pictures to the website, it works really well for like 6 months where people are really uploading them, and then it gets forgotten about for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a constant reminder. Whereas this district, the administration, the principals are phenomenal with using the district Instagram account. So let's use that.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. Keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So then scrolling down, we're going to have our news, little news section over here. Obviously, these are not any news sections that we've actually created. They're just kind of placeholders. You're going to have a academics and an athletics. They call this the twin menu. Then you have the district calendar, which again, I know we had talked about it last time. I have not had a chance to follow up on how this calendar will be done, if we can make it similar to Town Hall's calendar, or if it's just going to be the back-end Google Calendar like we have right now. Now, we have had some people use the subscribe button recently over the past week or two, and then we've made changes to one of the calendars they've subscribed to, and the change has been automatically done whenever they check their calendar, and as long as they had that calendar selected on their phone, they see the updated event information. I know, David, that was one of the questions that you had a couple of times in previous meetings about subscriptions. So
right. So
go ahead.
They will be able to hover over the event and add it to their, get the ICS for Outlook, or that's still in the air?
That's what I was saying. I have to find out. If we stick with Google, that will not be the case.
Okay.
If we go to an internal calendar, I am not aware of the functionality yet for Gabbard. But for now, the workaround is instead of adding it to your own personal calendar, you subscribe to it. And so like when you go on your phone, whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone, you know how you can select multiple calendars
Yeah.
that you have access to? You should be able to select, like the district one is called like the WWWWPS calendar, and they'll all show up on your phone and they'll be updated accordingly. So we've actually had to walk some families through the past couple of weeks subscribing to the calendar. And once we have walked them through it, it's been working. It works fine. So it's just a matter of, I think we have to clean up the instructions as a,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that some of the feedback that I've received, which actually I myself struggle with as well, is so obviously I subscribe to the calendar, right? I need to know when we have our various Board of Ed meetings. So when I look at the calendar on my iPhone or my iPad, it shows my personal calendar, my work calendar, and my Weston Public Schools calendar, right? So I can see sort of an overlay of all of my various
yes.
Appointments. The issue, what people had said to me, which I hadn't really thought about, and then it happened in my own office, is my office looks at my calendar, right? So for my part-time job, since this is my full-time, but for my other job, they want to know where I am, right? Am I going to be available? So they have no access to see that I have a communications committee meeting at 9 o'clock today, unless I manually add that appointment to my work calendar. If there was an ICS, like when the town of Weston has events, I can just open that item in my calendar, save it, and then it shows up. And it didn't really dawn on me until a couple of parents said to me, how can I have events from the school calendar show up in my personal calendar? And it didn't really make a lot of sense to me at first. And then when I started getting feedback in my own office, hey, we didn't know that you had a communication meeting at 9 o'clock today. It's like, wait a minute, it's right here on my calendar. So that's where I think the value of being able to open or import the item into your own personal calendar comes up, and then the notifications that you get, everything is sort of inside the one calendar that people work with.
The only issue that I'll have with that is once you download that appointment to your calendar, if something changes with the appointment, that ICS will not automatically update. And I know that's also been an issue that we've had. So, you know, it's kind of the balance as to figure out what's the best way to do this.
Yeah.
So we do have time, but I will even look up if there's a way in Google to allow like an export function for specific appointments or meetings.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would just be helpful to be able to offer both to people and just make sure that like, I understand if a calendar, if I import or click on the ICS file and I bring it into my calendar, if that meeting changes, it's not gonna dynamically update versus subscribing. So, you know, they both have their positives and both have their negatives. So it'd be great if we can offer both and let people just be aware.
Yes, and I'll take a look and I'll see if there's some kind of an ability for us to do that within Google. I would really prefer to keep things within Google, just because it's easier to manage all of the meetings. So if I can get an export function out, then I'll see if you know, maybe there's an overlay we can do with Gabbard. So that way we'll offer both a subscribe and the, you know, add to your own personal calendar thing. Then at the bottom, you have our Twitter account and our Facebook account. This is not our Facebook account. I have to remind them that this is a very, very old Weston, Connecticut. This is a old Weston Public Schools account, not Weston, Massachusetts. But I have to point them to the updated one. This was an issue that happened when I first started and I created our district Facebook page. This exists out there in the world, but nobody knows who owns it. And it hasn't been updated since 2016. and Facebook would not let me like seize it. So that's why I created a new one and I changed the link and stuff. So I just have to change that one. Then at the bottom is going to be actually our YouTube page. Added right in here, showing the latest meeting. Now it doesn't automatically stream. You know, if you're familiar with seeing a YouTube video embedded on a website, there will be a play button, but it will show our latest meeting that's been uploaded to our district YouTube page.
So latest meeting being a board meeting, correct? Or committee meeting or
committee meeting. Yep. Board meeting or committee meeting.
Okay.
And will this, I remember earlier, Dan, you were saying that there'll be sort of a drill down by school, somewhat similar, but the high school will have their own and middle school. For the video piece, I just learned that my 9th grader is taking a videography class and they create videos. So could the high school also use this to highlight videos created within the class, whatever they choose? Will they have the option to have videos as well?
I just have to take a look and see if that YouTube channel, as long as it's a public facing channel, yes. Because sometimes for videography courses, depending on the grade, they make it a private channel that you can't access unless you've been invited to it.
Yeah.
So as long as it's set to a public page, I don't see why not.
Okay.
You know, like I've done like morning announcements that get posted they're streamed on YouTube, and then they get categorized.
Yeah.
I would do morning announcements for like the middle school or for the high school would be embedded on the page.
Okay. Yeah. I know video is a big catch right now, right? Everyone wants the video.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, and where our meeting videos are kept where?
On our district YouTube page.
The district YouTube page, okay.
Yep.
So the latest videos, that'll be a link to the latest videos. Is there any way that we could also put in a link to our district YouTube page for, so people can access previous videos?
So there'll be a menu, I think to the right. See how it's got this spinning thing over here?
Yep.
I think that'll be almost like a playlist. And then if you click on that playlist, it'll open up in a new window directly to our YouTube page.
All right. Just ease of use.
Yeah, 100%. You see there's a nice little menu option over here. Like there's a playlist, you can forward the video. And then right here, you can share it. So it's pretty slick that this is a really nice widget embedded in this website.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
And then that takes us to the bottom of the page. So it's not huge. It's not a very long page. We don't want people to have to scroll down too far. So, and then this menu option would be like some highlighted or salient points as almost like a sell for our district, like, number 1 high school in the state of Connecticut, number 2 on, Niche, that website, you know what I mean? So like, sellable points for prospective families and residents.
I think that sellable points, great to put on there. I think we need to make sure that the ones that we're going to put on there are going to be surveys that hold water. So, some of the surveys are kind of, no matter how great the ranking, we need to make sure that the survey is credible. So I think that that's great. But aside from that, I think that this looks really good. I would be hesitant to put anything else on here because from my days of working with GUIs, keep it simple, stupid works best. So
I agree 100%.
Okay. Awesome.
Any questions?
I like it. When is this, when are we expecting it to be able to go live?
January 3rd, 2023.
Awesome.
And do you run this by the BOE's outside counsel for all compliance or compliance review?
We have not in the past. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit?
Well, we're putting out information into the public domain. I do think having, well, everyone else jump here. I do think having a legal review makes sure that everything we're saying is okay to put out in the public domain. You do that in the corporate world all the time, and in reviewing, in reviewing, various websites. I don't know if it would hurt to have Jessica take a look at it and say, is there anything on here that would be of concern for her as an attorney? I don't know, Sharon, David, I don't know how you feel about that.
The only thing that I think would be a concern, I hear what you're saying. I think that everything that he's talking about putting up here is, I mean, because we are a public entity, we have to, the transparency is something that we really want to encourage. And the only concern that I think that they might have would be the photos of students, and making sure that those photos, that all of the students who are actually photographed and on our website, their parents are okay with their picture, their likeness being put on the website. And they're already up on Instagram. I understand that, but let's not open up a can of worms here. So let's make sure that whatever approval they got for Instagram I'm sure that will carry over to this, but we need to make sure that there's been an approval because some parents just don't want their kid's picture to get it. And if that's the case, then, if we don't have a general approval from parents, then we need to find another feed or another way of doing that.
So for that aspect, for pictures and videos, just so that's a question that we ask families every single year to apply, to agree to, and then we can check that within PowerSchool to make sure, and that's something I always recommend to anybody who posts pictures. If you're not sure, don't take a picture of them. The majority, I mean, we're at 99.9% of families have not opted out of that policy, but just sometimes it's easier, take the picture of the back of the kids' heads, or try not to include pictures of students unless we do give tips and tricks to make sure that, we don't run into any issues.
Great. And I mean, you almost have to have a list of the 0.1% of the students. Please do not photograph these students. Exactly. And if we're making sure that we're in compliance on that aspect of it, I don't think that the rest of this is going to be an issue. That's my take on it. David, do you have
I would just simply say, I don't know that I would run it by the attorneys, and well, there's no harm necessarily. I just don't know that for the cost, the benefit, I find most websites, we're disseminating information, and I would think that, to get ourselves into trouble, we would have to knowingly disseminate information that is false or misleading. So I would say it's probably a high cost to involve an attorney that's not going to come back to us and say, you should specifically do this and this differently. They're going to probably advise us on things that, Dan, you're probably already aware of and the district's aware of, as far as like what Sharon said, pictures of kids and their likeness if the parents haven't opted out. So I would say there's not going to be harm in running by an attorney, but it's probably going to be a cost that doesn't really bear much valuable fruit. And I would just be worried about, I always say every dollar we spend that's not educating our children should be a dollar that's well thought. So
Dan,
yeah,
do you know your counterparts at some of the surrounding school districts?
Yep.
Good. This guy's, yeah.
Give them a call and ask them what they do. Wilton, Westport, whomever, to say, we're redoing our website. Do you have a legal review? If the answer is no, which it probably is, then let's just move on.
Yeah. And I guess what you're asking for, Steve, is essentially a one-time review. Hey, this is what our new website's looking at, or are you thinking an ongoing review?
No, one-time review.
I agree. I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out to my counterparts. I've worked with many of the other tech directors in the state and about website transitions and stuff. It's never been brought up. That's not to say they don't do it, but nobody's ever brought up a legal review. So I'll come back with an answer.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned about living in this town and being public officials, it's that everybody goes through everything with a fine-tooth comb. So we just need to make sure that everything is We just do it right and above board. So Steve,
100%.
great point. And I think that we can probably, and David, great point for you too. I think that we can find a happy medium here.
Okay. Any other feedback on the website so far?
I think you've done a great job, Dan. You've obviously put a lot of work into this, and I think you've done a great job. There, when we launch it, I'm sure that there will be people who it doesn't work intuitively to them, but I think that the majority of the people probably will find it to be very helpful. So great job.
One of the things, and I feel like I'm gonna sound like a broken record from now until January, but I'm gonna bring it up at every single communications meeting. The biggest issue that I think we're gonna have when we go live are people's personal bookmarks of the website. So a lot of times people don't go to the district website. They're gonna bookmark their children's school, and that link is going to change. Whereas before it may have been like right now it may be like www.westonps.org/Hurlbut-elementary-school. It's going to change to westonps.org/HES. So what may happen, and I'm going to start putting out more communication to the public via the messenger and via Facebook, is
via the PTOs.
Yeah, via the PTOs as well as a warning. Remember, if you have any direct bookmarks to sections of our current website, January 3rd, those bookmarks may be different. So that's just,
100%. My suggestion is, and luckily you're at a communications meeting, so we can help you with this.
Right.
My suggestion is that each of the PTOs specifically, because typically people will open up things that have to do with their school in particular. So the PTOs, but
Exactly.
since this is a district-wide thing and not everybody belongs to the PTO, I think maybe 70% of the student population. So definitely have the principals of each of the schools send out a communication and have a link to their school page on that communication that they can basically click on and then add bookmark. So let's just make it as simple as possible so that we can minimize that roadblock.
Absolutely.
Dan, so I know they can custom program the 404, right? Which is, the page can't be limited. So can you work with them so that when somebody does try and open a bookmark that's no longer valid, it's not the default 404, it's a custom one that, just either redirects to the home page or says, our website was updated on January 3rd, 2022. You'll be redirected to the home page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Or click here to be redirected to the home page.
And then
to see the error message, but then click to go to the home page. Yeah, 100%. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, will there be an opportunity for you or for us or for the company to run it through a simulator or look at what it actually looks like on iPhones and Android devices to make sure? Because as much as I still use my computer to browse a lot of the web because I just find it easier.
Yep.
I think that it's some staggering percentage of like 60 or 70% of people are browsing the web on an iPhone. And
I'm not at a computer most of the time, and I think that a lot of parents are not at computers, especially moms. So we're not at computers. So iPhone, it has to be iPhone or Android compatible.
And then it lays out. Essentially it's the layout, right? The information is going to be there. It's just that you spend so much time formatting it so it's visually appealing and smooth on a computer screen, and then you bring it up on an iPhone or Android, and because of the resolution and because of the way it renders, 3 columns across the computer screen becomes 2 columns on an iPhone, and the 3rd column is a separate line. So will there be so will you be able to spend the time on seeing it actually on those devices?
100%. And the preview site is actually available. It's in the public. So so I can send you guys the link to take a look at it through your mobile device. One of the selling pieces to using Gabbard was the thematic design of the website is made with the mobile optimization in mind. They framework the website so that it redraws in mobile format automatically, and it does it well. Whereas our current website, and I think I mentioned this last time, when we want to mobile optimize it, that's an additional step and an additional design process per web page. So as much as WordPress is very powerful, that's a full-time job for someone to scour our thousands of websites, web pages, and mobile optimize them. Whereas Gabbard, if we create a brand new page from scratch, in theory, the thematic design automatically makes it mobile optimized. But that's a great point, and I will send you guys the link to this so you can take a look on your phones and iPads and different phones, iPhones, Androids. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, happy to beta.
Yeah, there we go. Who knew that as board members you'd be beta testers as well?
You're in trouble, Dan, with me.
I personally think that as board members, we beta test a lot, and then we wind up with some feedback across the board for pretty much everything.
Very true.
The question is, who here has an Android?
Hillary does.
Crickets.
Does she? All right,
Yeah.
good. Because we are a complete iPhone family.
You're truly a split house over here in every which way.
Ooh. Painful.
There we go.
All right.
All right, next, Facebook. So I just wanted to go over our Facebook page. This month I started the pre-scheduling of posts showing our meeting schedule. So let me pull this up real quick. There we go. Okay. So you can see starting 3 days ago, I grabbed this post based on the calendar for all upcoming board meetings. So the policy, communications, the curriculum, finance, the BOE meeting. As you can see, not everything was completed, right? Because it's the beginning of the month. So like the link for the curriculum committee meeting wasn't available when I posted this yet. So when the follow-up scheduled link goes out, hopefully I'll have that link and I'll put it in there. Same thing with the Board of Ed meeting, because it's to be determined, because the goal for this month's Board of Ed meeting is to do it in the Zoom webinar feature, if possible, if I can get everybody on our end trained in time. And then
go ahead. Sorry. No, go. It's a sidebar, so I don't want to take you off topic.
Okay. So then this was one of the first. So this communications committee meeting, that was an automatically scheduled post that was set to be posted 24 hours before this meeting. And we're going to see that for each meeting coming up, 24 hours before a meeting, there's going to be a scheduled post that's going to get published, reminding everybody of the upcoming BOE meeting or subcommittee meeting and all the connection information and a link to the agenda, if there is an agenda at that point in time when I'm scheduling the post. You can see insights and ads. So like the post that was yesterday for this meeting, it says post impressions, so 147 people. It reached 146. Post engagement. So engagement means the number of times they engaged with this post, or reactions, comments, shares, views, or clicks. So it can be a silent engagement. They just simply clicked on the post. So we're, within 24 hours, we reached, close to 150 people who saw it. And
that's cool.
From a back end, this is the Meta Business Suite. It is free. And this is how we schedule posts. So you can see wherever you see something in green, these are when posts are scheduled to go out and what it shows. So next Thursday, there's going to be a post for the Facilities Finance Committee, as well as the connection information. Then on Sunday the 16th will be the post for the Board of Ed regular meeting.
Dan, how much of your time is taken up?
Doing this?
Yeah, or will be taken up, going
Um,
forward.
it probably all when all is said and done, a few hours just to get everything posted and to get it together. And it's just checking. So, like for instance, I have a note that the curriculum committee at that point when I posted it did not have the link. So I just have to keep checking. Once I check it, if it's there, then I edit the scheduled post and I'll put it in there. So I'd say a few hours.
Few hours a week.
I'd say a few hours a week. Yeah.
And what do you anticipate on the website? Your time.
It's gonna ramp up as we get closer to going live with it. And then once we go live, it's going to top off. Then there's going to be a few months of working with staff members to make sure that they're trained properly. But then once, let's say by, I don't know, May, not even, probably by April, then it's going to start tailing off and my work on the website will get much lower because fingers crossed, we be in a good groove with making sure the website's up to date at each individual school. But yeah, from now until April, it's going to ramp up with the amount of work I'm going to be putting into the website.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Dan, is it possible, again, it's the visual way that my brain works. For the post that goes out at the beginning of the month, can you format it at all where, for example, the name of the meeting, the curriculum is in bold and then communications in bold, just to catch the eye so when someone sees it, they can quickly say, oh, these are the committee meetings and the regular board meetings. Can you visually format?
Let me see. Hang on one second. I remember looking and I didn't see on the ability to see like this is it. It's just copy and paste, right? So I can take a look and see if there is a back way to do it. I get what you're saying because I was looking at that too, as I originally wanted the name of the committee to be in bold.
Right.
And so what I ended up having to do instead was just do a space in between meetings to try to separate it, to try to reduce the amount of confusion that people had. But as of right now, I couldn't see a way to do it.
Yeah. No, you got it. That's exactly what I'm asking, right? If there was a way to do it, had you thought about it, the answer is yes. It doesn't appear to be a way to do it. So
but unfortunately not. Like you'd think that they'd want you to be able to especially their business platform, they'd want you to be able to format and organize it better, but it's still like with the consumer mind, Meta hasn't really figured out the business side of it yet.
Yeah, you got to remember what the roots of Facebook was, right? A college digital yearbook or whatever.
Right?
Not a yearbook, but okay.
Yeah. That's the PC version.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about what it's become today.
No, it was the college hot or not, the original.
It was. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot more that you can do with the Meta Business Suite that I haven't really had a chance to dive into, but
you've got your hands full with the site that's coming up. And I appreciate the fact that we have a Facebook presence and that I think we're doing a lot right now as far as this is concerned. And I think that, you've got, your focus is not just on the online, like online communication for the school, but your focus is also on online and educational technology for the kids. So I'm in Steve's corner as far as how much time are you spending on this? Let's not spend too much time on this when the fact of the matter is that you really need to focus and make sure that your, smart boards and everything else that need to be taken care of in the classroom are all being met and taken care of. So, but I think that we've really spent a lot of time on this and I think that you've done a fantastic job. So I think that, and David, I know that there's a gazillion different rabbit holes that we could go down with this. And to make it like the most, the easiest thing in the entire world for parents to use, but that's, that's part of our focus communication, but it's also we have to be cognizant of Dan's time in communication versus in education. So I think you've done a great job.
Yeah, I think what we've done in the past year as far as working with Dan and just communication in general is, our mission was to pick the channels that are the, how we're going to communicate, which I think was Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and just disseminate out there. This is where the information is. Make a commitment to the community that we're going to update it.
Yep.
And I think I've said this before, short of us going to people's homes and turning on their computer and logging them into our meetings, I think that we've done a lot to get the information out there, and we just now need to make sure people know where to find it, right? So the first piece is getting the information out there accurately,
right,
and sharing where to find it. I think we've done both of those things. And then based on the feedback of, hey, is the information that you're receiving, does it work for you? We've made adjustments, right? So people have asked for the reminders of, I think the monthly, hey, this is the meetings for the month. And then we get the reminders about 24 hours before a scheduled meeting. Like I subscribe to the Facebook page. I got my communications reminder as a community member. So, I think that we have made huge.
I agree. The one thing that I think is how we're communicating has been a big address that that's what we've been addressing in the last year. But I also think we need to be cognizant of what we're communicating to. So, for example, we had a lot of pushback based upon on our most recent board meeting because of the fact that we were on Zoom as opposed to in person. And we discussed amongst ourselves, and we even discussed at one of the board meetings, why we are doing a hybrid model. And I don't think that we've done, as a communication committee, I don't think that we did our job and communicated that message to the parents. Because when you're getting pushback from the community that they don't understand why, even though in our minds, we're like, what are you talking about? We discussed it in the public forum. This should be enough. I think that we need to communicate exactly why we are doing a hybrid model. And I also think that we need to communicate exactly what the hybrid schedule is going to look like. So that was my next question. David, have you heard back from Lisa and Jody as to exactly which meetings are going to be in person and which ones are going to be Zoom? Because that's something that I think that we as a communication community need to get out there soon. I don't want to have another October meeting come up and have people, you're hiding behind your keyboards. I mean, they're completely missing the whole reason as to why we're doing these in Zoom.
Right.
So we need to communicate that.
Yeah. I mean, I have not heard on the exact dates. I do understand that there was, I think two things. I think as far as a bit of a disconnect, a lot of things happen in committee, right?
Sure.
And they're discussed in depth in committee, whether it's curriculum, communication, policy, and then it's sort of wrapped up and sent to the regular Board of Ed meeting. And that's where we talk about it, but not necessarily in as much detail. It's more the things that need to be voted on or need to be, cemented. So I think what happens is a lot of things happen in committee. People don't attend the committee and then they just get the Cliff Notes version of what we discussed at the regular Board of Ed meeting. So I think, the last Board of Ed meeting we had before, I think it was June or July.
June.
Right, it was decided that I gotta find a do not disturb button for my work phone. Put it on my permanent do not disturb. I think it was decided that we were going to meet once per calendar quarter in person, twice per calendar, and the other two meetings were going to be remote. And it was decided that was going to be set essentially at the beginning of the year, so people could know and could plan around it, because we were trying to cater to the people who want the FaceTime, want to have the one-on-one direct interaction, and then we were trying to provide an avenue for the parents who say, look, I want to be able to be involved in these meetings, but 6 or 7 o'clock, I just can't get there. I have to prepare, pick up kids from athletics. I have to get dinner on the table. I'm on the train from work, whatever the case may be. I think ultimately that's not what's going to happen. It seems like once per calendar, I think my understanding was Lisa was going to look at the agenda or look at the information that she wants to get out there and then determine which meeting per calendar quarter is going to be in person. So we may have to revisit with Lisa at the next regular Board of Ed meeting how we're going to know which meetings are in person and which meetings are remote, because I think you and I are on the same page, Sharon. I know, Steve, you weren't on the board at the time, but in June, it was decided that we would have it in the calendar, that for argument's sake, the November meeting would be in person, therefore October and December would be remote. That seems to have changed based on, from talking.
It's the
Yeah.
No,
I think it was the
she's-
recognition one. So in June and December, we decided we definitely had to have in-person meetings because that's when we do our recognitions. So,
I think,
but regardless, I think we just need to get it hammered out and put it out there so that people understand. And any questions, we just direct them to, here's the calendar, and it just needs to be communicated why. And you and I, we've all discussed this in committee. We just need to communicate why. We've discussed it at the board too. You know, we need to communicate why we are reaching so many more people who can actively participate and have a better user experience during the Zoom meetings versus the live meetings where we have 3 people in the audience and where they are watching a video that is not nearly as good of a user experience as the Zoom is because of a technology that, to be perfectly honest with you, we don't want to necessarily invest in when there is a Zoom technology available. So I just think we need to communicate it as a group. Sorry, Steve, you were saying? Steve, I think you're muted right now. Still can't hear you.
No, we lost you. You're
muted now.
right now. But if you unmute, your audio still disappeared. Do you have like headphones or speakers or something?
Hold on, he's back.
Oh.
No, you're not.
I feel like this is airplane.
Yeah, this isn't a mute or unmute feature. This is something that just happened to your microphone. Like your microphone just broke. Are you on a phone or on a computer or your iPad? You're on your iPad.
Can you
That's
disconnect? You want to try disconnecting and connecting again? That might be.
I felt like, who's watched the movie Airplane? Right, when
Who's
it's
watched
landing,
it?
right? The gates, right? Now arrive on gate 12, 13, 14, 20, 24. No, you're muted. You're unmuted. You're muted.
All right. Steve, you there?
any better?
Yes, it's working.
Yeah, we got you.
What I was trying to say, David, is when that question came up in our last meeting, I thought you were very succinct in why we chose, or why the board chose to have a hybrid of in-person and, and not in-person meetings. Maybe we need to reiterate it again one more time. But there will always be a cohort of people who want to have an in-person meeting. I actually think they're in the minority.
They are.
And those that are asking for an in-person meeting have an agenda associated with that. And so I think you said it quite well. It's all about attendance, and the ability to schedule as well. It's attendance and the ability to schedule, and it is in favor of remote meetings.
And cost. We have to have staff. There's time spent setting up, taking down. There's a lot of reasons as to why Zoom actually just makes more sense. But there's also, as a community member, I understand there are times where it is important for the board to be in person for recognition. And if there's a really sensitive or emotional topic, I have no problem being there in person. I don't. We're not going to get bullied into being in person all the time so we can sit in the middle school library for 4 hours while 2 people show up. But I agree with you, Steve. I think the people who are really the most vocal about this are in the minority. But I do think it's good to have a hybrid. And as much as Dan did do a fantastic job vocalizing or verbalizing why it's important, the ironic thing is the people who are complaining are not listening. So we actually need to put out some sort of a thing on the Facebook page or wherever on the calendar, something that says, I can't do it on the calendar, but on the Facebook page, maybe put in there like, there's been a concern recently as to why, and just so we can get the communication out there. Just because, if we don't address it, it just kind of takes on a whole life of its own, and we start to become, it just turns into something that it really shouldn't turn into.
I think what we should do is, there's bad information out there. And what I mean by bad information is that we left the June meeting with the intention of having a calendar published where the community would know, for argument's sake, the October meeting was remote, the November meeting was in person, December was remote. And then that was the intent, was to, in September, publish this, which month in the calendar quarter would be in person and which would be remote. And it gives an opportunity for people who want to interact with us face to face to schedule around that, right? That was the intent. And that was what was left. And so I think there was some folks in the community who either didn't thoroughly hear the portion that it was going to be one calendar meeting per quarter in person. They thought that all the meetings would be in person. That's something that we can't fix because that they just didn't hear the same. They didn't hear what we had said. But what we do have to correct is that it seems like we're moving to more of a dynamic model where we're not going to be able to schedule ahead of time, months in advance or even at the beginning of the year when these meetings are going to be, because the controlling factor is there's certain meetings that lend themselves or require in person. And because we want to be able to have as much of the community participate as possible in our regular Board of Ed meetings, we have seen remote attendance is much greater than in person. So I think what we really have to do is but at the next regular Board of Ed meeting, just clarify that in June, the intent was to publish in September which meetings were going to be in person, so people could schedule around that. And Lisa can just speak to, why that model isn't really workable. Because I think what the intent is to take meetings that require in person, which is, for example, recognition. And then you have meetings like, I believe Lisa wants to talk about enrollment in person. And so you have what Lisa perceives to be meetings that will garner more attendance, enrollment. Mm-hmm. And you have meetings that are the awards where we want to be able to see and shake hands or fist bump or, smile at the recipient. So I think what we have to do is we have to talk about how we're trying to combine those two. And at the same time, we're trying to make sure that we have as big of an attendance or audience as possible. And it's the numbers you can't argue with the data, which is that the remote meetings are better attended than in person. But we want to give the in-person, we want to have the opportunity to meet in person with the community and with each other once per calendar quarter.
I think that's great. I just think that what we need to do is make sure that there is at least one other outlet in which we're communicating this, not just during our meetings, because this is, again, assuming that everyone's watching the meetings. What's happening is some people watch the meetings, other people don't. Disinformation gets started. People who are not watching the meetings buy into what's being said, and it starts to grow. And it's kind of like, no, stop before everybody gets all upset. Here's the real situation.
Well, we can just. Right, and we can refer back to our meeting. So the information that's out there right now that implies that we were going to be meeting in person all the time, that's incorrect. And we can refer back to the June meeting, and we could, if necessary, find the exact video. And then we should clarify at the next Board of Ed meeting based on what Lisa determines that we are committed to once per calendar quarter meeting in person. We are committed to, if there is a meeting that would be in the discretion of Lisa or the Board of Ed, a second meeting in the calendar quarter would be best done in person. We will add more in person. I think what we agreed to as a board was we would commit to one meeting per calendar quarter in person, and that we would add additional in-person meetings if required, but we would not take away that in-person meeting.
Right. And all of this is being done to maximize our reach in the community.
Right.
That's
Right.
but I just think that we need to make sure that we do that. The other thing is, as a communication committee, okay, so while we're on this topic, as a communication committee, what are your thoughts on, there is a lot of disinformation out there right now that is, you know, the drum is being beat, and we try not to let it distract us, but at the same time, you know, you're a new community member coming in here and you're being told that we're the #1 spending school system per student in the state.
Well,
And the
that's-
facts just don't support that at
no,
all.
well, yeah, so
I mean, and there are documents, there are state documents that could be posted that show that we are nowhere, no, we're not #1. But people are buying into that and saying, hold on, we're the #1 spending school system per student in the state. And yet we are, you know, according to this niche thing, like ninth. Like, hold on, guys, time out. We're not #1 spending. We are top spending. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay, but we are not #1 spending. And, you know, let's just take that away. That continues to be beat time and time and time again, the spending per student. And as a communications committee, is it our responsibility to share the document that shows, or do we just let it go? I don't know.
to me, you just let it go.
Okay.
The information's wrong.
Yeah.
It's repeated. It just continually gets repeated. It's wrong. That's just one of many of those aspects of the posts that go on by this group.
It's unfortunate though. People read those posts and then they go, "Oh my gosh, we're #1. I had no idea." And then they start.
Yeah.
I just don't want to.
Except these are keyboard cowboys, and
True.
And that's a term I used publicly before, and I'll use it again. And so you can't stop it, you can't refute it. If someone calls you and asks you where we are in terms of spending, we are not the highest per capita student spending in the state, not even close.
I know.
And the difference between Westport, Weston, Wilton, or Durg is, you know, we're talking, maybe with the exception of Darien. And oh, by the way it's all accounted for, if you go ask Phil, because I've asked this question about how it's accounted for, town by town, it's all different. So it's very difficult to compare town A to town B. It all depends on how they account for certain aspects of capital spending. So
Sure.
I just you just let it lie and let it go out there.
Okay. Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up here in the communications committee, to see if that's something that we want to touch or just let it go.
Just gives them airtime that they don't deserve.
I agree with that. Okay.
And I'll just add one quick thing, which is I personally highly dislike the word disinformation, because to me, disinformation is intended to mislead. And I know what you're talking about. I don't believe that they intend to mislead. I believe when I read what they're posting, it's their interpretation, which certainly they have a right to make that interpretation and disseminate the information. And I think that when we have an opportunity to correct it, we should. But I've had conversations with people on social media when I see something that is defensible, that, you know, I can correct the information on or provide different information on, and I'll do that. But it's hard to correct all of it because some of it is written from a place of emotion and not fact. So
that is disinformation. when there are facts that you can easily refute, and publicly available facts that you can easily refute this constant drumbeat of #1 spending, blah, 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 that is complete disinformation.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. So it's overall, I think that, you know, we sort of, as Steve said, we can't correct everything that's out there. But I know that when there's an opportunity for me to provide a different set of facts or refer someone to this is what actually happened, I'll do that. But there's so much information out there. What we really have to do is just ask people to attend our meetings, which is where all the information comes from, right? There's nothing, we don't meet in secret corners of Weston and after dusk and the lights out. So yeah, so I think overall we're never going to be able to correct what's out on social media. At most, what we can do is just ask people to tune in, disseminate information about when our meetings are, how they can watch them,
Yes.
and just ask them to tune in and talk with us, right?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly what we want, and we give them that opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, great. So then let's make sure that we communicate when the meetings are going to be and why, reiterate why we are doing the hybrid model. I think that that's really important for them to understand. I think reasonable people will all say, oh, that makes total sense, but they have to have the information in order to understand that.
There's more information about how to interact with the members of this board than there are in any other boards in this town. Everybody's emails are available. Your which I have to put mine up. All of our backgrounds are there. Our pictures are there. It doesn't get, all these meetings are recorded.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get more transparent than this.
I almost feel like I should wear a name tag when I go to Lily's. Like, ask me questions. I'm here. Talk to me.
We'll have a t-shirt made up for you.
Okay, good. I'm fine with that. I have no problem talking to people about it, but yeah.
And Dan, just to kind of maybe potentially close out this portion of our topics, when we moved to Zoom, one of the reasons that we were moving to Zoom for the benefit of Steve, I know Sharon, and just for the community who may tune into this now or later. One of the reasons we moved from Zoom to Zoom from what we had been doing, it was to invite the community to be more part of the meeting, right? There was feedback that I received, which I acknowledged, which was sort of the way the Board of Ed conducted their meetings, different than Weston Gov, different than LaShott, different than the Board of Finance, was we, the Board of Ed, and the people who were part of the schools, we were in Zoom. The rest of you wait in the hall and view it on a TV called YouTube, right? And there was just a feeling that we're in the meeting, you're out in the hall watching the meeting. So we moved, and this is kind of a statement this is a question framed as a statement. The concept of Zoom is we're going to invite people who want to participate in the meeting to come through Zoom. And if you're
saying, so clarify, Zoom webinar.
Yes. Yeah. So essentially we're all on Zoom. I guess that's really kind of the way the intent is. Everyone is on Zoom, whether you are actively participating as a Board of Ed member, an educator, an administrator, or you're here for public comment. And if you just want to consume the meeting for the purposes of watching, seeing what's going on, getting your facts directly from the meeting, everybody is going to be in Zoom. You're going to click a Zoom link, you're going to be part of the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And we will also be streaming it on YouTube.
Right.
For people who want to watch it on YouTube, we can give them multiple avenues to watch the meeting. So we're going to do the Zoom webinar so people can click on it. And once we go live with using Zoom webinar, they don't have to disconnect from the meeting once the public comment is finished, because the webinar works differently, right? There's panelists and viewers. So when everyone outside of board members or people invited to the webinar as panelists, the public comes in and they're just viewers. Their camera's not on, they're muted automatically. There's no interaction. We go out to public comment. They will raise their hand in the Zoom feature. There's a hand raising feature. They raise their hand, and then Jody reads their name. She will elevate them to a panelist. They make their statement. We then bring them down back to viewer. The next person gets elevated to panelist. They speak. It goes back down to viewer. And then they can stay on the Zoom meeting for as long as they want. And they can also just continue. People don't even have to join the Zoom meeting. They can just watch it via YouTube. So there's no harm in providing two links for the same exact thing.
And
because
for those
used to, my biggest concern is I don't want to get rid of the YouTube, because then we're going to get people going, wait a minute, but I have an alert and I'm subscribed, so it'll tell me that I have one. So I just wanted to watch on YouTube. That's why I'm saying we do both avenues moving forward.
And from a functionality perspective, I believe what we talked about was, so right now, I know we're using Google Meets, but right now I can see each of your faces. Dan, when you speak, I still can see Sharon and Steve.
Yep.
That's one of the key differences also, right? For members who join the Zoom webinar, when they speak, they can still see, however they arrange their computer screen, they still have the opportunity to see each of our expressions, our interactions,
Yes.
drinking the coffee, whatever the case may be, versus YouTube, where it's typically just the person who's speaking. It goes full screen. So with Zoom, the experience also for community members who want to tune in and either want to speak or just listen, they'll have the opportunity to see each one of us, see our lips when we're speaking, see our mannerisms when we're listening, and it should be more engaging than YouTube, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And when Sharon's talking on mute, they'll see that too.
Not to mention the fact that the screen share option of it is actually much better than the
Right.
YouTube. So
Right.
that is great. When someone's watching it the next day, they can actually see and not try to, get different glasses to read the fuzzy letters. So, all right.
And then the in-person meetings that we have, those will be streamed as well.
Just to YouTube.
Just to YouTube.
Yes.
And the interaction from the community, public comment will be in person only. So if you want to make public comment during an in-person meeting, you have to show up for in-public comment. And we did that essentially because we have 60,000 other places to spend potentially $60,000 to upgrade the technology in the library to accommodate remote interaction.
Correct.
Okay.
Could I just ask one question, Dan?
Sure.
So in terms of maintaining the website and other things and your time, is it a thought of engaging some student or a group of students who like doing these things to work with you to give them the experience as well as give you the time?
That's a great idea. It's something that I've wanted to do. I just simply have not had time to set up, but I've done that in my previous districts. So I used to call it like the student tech core, and we'd engage them to help us out with things like this. And ultimately, I'd like to be able to give them some type of credit, whether it's community service credit or something like that. So
Absolutely.
I do agree that that is something I would love to do. And I'm hoping that now that this is the first, I don't even like using air quotes, but normal year, since I've started here, I'm hoping to be able to do something like that this year or next year. I think that's a great idea.
Agreed.
And then after they're seniors and they've gone through your tech core program, you can send them over to me for a job.
There you go.
Working for your account, David. That's why I asked the question.
And between the two of you guys, you're going to give them summer internships.
Yep, exactly.
Resume builders. This is good. I like this.
Exactly. Full circle.
That's right. You're going to be my feeder system.
I like it.
Hey, my son worked for him this summer. Had a great day.
Nice.
We have someone working for us right now who is a Weston High graduate.
Oh,
That's
nice.
great.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm a big proponent, not for this meeting, but I'm a big proponent that we look into more vocational programming in our public schools. And I have spoken to Steve.
Technical programming.
Okay, is that the 2022?
Yeah, technical.
No
Yeah.
more vocational.
I think the term vocational has a kind of pejorative connotation to it. I really do think technical training. David and I did have this conversation, and I was describing an electrician who's working with a guy who's upgrading our at my home our internet, and I would like to bill myself out at what he gets paid.
Oh,
It's true.
And
Yeah.
he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and he's not on hour meetings talking about communications.
nope.
True.
That and the plumber on Sunday. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I
Or
just
the
dealt with that. So yes, I agree.
Yeah. Our HVAC and things like that, they never break Monday through Friday. It's only on the weekends during a cold snap. So it's hard to argue with that.
Well, Steve and I will definitely be championing the appropriate subcommittee.
No. I think it's very important. I mean, seriously.
I think it's very important too, as a mother of 3 kids across all different areas. One who, higher education, the other one, higher education. The third one's like, why higher education? And I'm like, oh boy. So, I mean, it's important that that we help our kids understand that there are successful pathways that they can take, that don't necessarily require the 4-year college degree and don't require them to, pay $250,000 for a degree that they don't need for a job that's a technical job. So I think that that's something that I know that our schools are frequently judged on the percentage of kids that go to a 4-year college, but that's not necessarily the success factor for these kids. So if you guys decide to start a subcommittee on that, throw me on that committee. I'd be very happy to participate in that.
Look, I think it's, we're digressing, but I think it's
Right.
I think it's really relevant. I told David when we got together, the fellow who works on wells, has an MBA from the University of Connecticut, but he has a water company. And this past summer, he was doing some work on our well, and he had a fellow with him, who was covered in grease and torn jeans, and he introduced me to him. It turns out it's his brother-in-law who has a PhD in anthropology, teaches at Temple University. This is his summer job, and he makes more money doing this than he does as a young assistant or associate professor, at Temple. So, I mean, there are avenues that people should be exposed to that don't necessarily mean you need to go to college for 4 years or college at all for that matter.
Well, and not to sound tangential, but when it comes down to technology's involvement in this is something that I love. So, feel free to,
No.
I'll work with you about that. Let's just look at manufacturing in general, right? There's 2 career pathways for manufacturing: design and the build process. One requires higher education, one does not. Salaries, very similar for both of them. So to show the students that you can be in the manufacturing side of life and not need a 4-year degree, if you want to be an architect or designer, but you want to be a builder, 3D printing is a big thing. I think students should be exposed to both avenues. So I agree with what everyone's saying, 100%.
Yeah.
That sounds more like we need to have Lisa on this meeting.
No, as a board, it's a conversation we should have.
Yeah, and to that end as well, you think about the plumber scenario or electrician scenario, right? Right out of school, you can get into that trade and you can be very successful and say, you know what, one day I want to run this business, or one day I want to start my own plumbing business. And at that point, you'll make a determination of, okay, maybe now I need to go to a 2-year school in order to learn more of the management and the finance side of things, because I've got the trade piece down. I know how to do the work on a daily basis, but for me to go to the next level, now I recognize why a degree might help me take this business from where it is today to double or triple the size, or hey, this is what I'm going to need to know for me to go out on my own and run a successful plumbing business rather than continuing to work for this person. So
no, you're absolutely right. And my last tangent, I promise. And a step further than that, my high school actually provided a class that was invaluable. And most kids took it their senior year. It's kind of considered to be somewhat of a blow-off class, but it wasn't really. And it's called personal finance. Personal finance was awesome.
There's an article I read this morning. I'll find it about Connecticut, of making financial literacy
yes,
a required course in Connecticut high schools.
Yes, it should. And it was not just, there was financial literacy, and as far as somewhat understanding banking, but it was more like how to open a banking account or a checking account, how to buy life insurance, how to buy how to shop for health insurance, how to apply for a job, how to rent an apartment, how to apply for a mortgage and buy a house. And it was kind of a fun class because they had students marry each other, right? So you had a partner. So you had to go through and you had to plan a wedding. You had to prepare for a child. You had to prepare for a death. There were all different types of things, and we went on different field trips to different places too. But I got to be honest with you, they taught us how to balance a checkbook. It was the most valuable class that a lot of my classmates ever took, because I grew up in a rural area, and a lot of my classmates didn't attend college. They needed to have this information getting out of high school because they were going straight to work. They didn't know how to apply for a mortgage. They didn't know, the difference between life insurance and health insurance and all these different types of insurances. So it was really a valuable class. And I do wish that we could incorporate something like that in our curriculum for the kids.
I'll find this and send it around. Sorry.
We can actually just call it adulting.
Adulting.
Yeah, I mean, life skills. That's really what it comes down to.
It really is so
life
important,
skills.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter where we move as a country or evolution or whatever the case may be. There are some skills, whether it's fixing a leaking pipe or balancing a checkbook and everything in between. Whether you have a no degree, 4-year degree, doctorate, you're going to need to, if you've got a leaking pipe in your wall, you might not know how to repair it, but you need to be prepared. Where is the water shut off? And can I afford to hire a plumber today, or do I have to wait till tomorrow? Am I paying, double time on Sunday, or am I going to wait and call tomorrow? So, but yeah, Steve and I have definitely had these conversations, and I've mentioned them in the past at a couple of our curriculum meetings that I'd really like to see us offering some more tech.
I think that would be, I think that would be really valuable to the kids in Weston. And that's number one, that's our number one priority, right? Making sure that the kids in Weston get the best education that they can get. And I think that so often schools neglect that aspect of the education. And we count on parents to teach it. And parents are busy. They're not always teaching it. And they're not showing their kids, oh, by the way, I'm applying for a refinance. Come watch me fill out the paperwork and come sit down with me while I talk to the lawyers. They're not, so.
I would love to have an interesting question that we probably is too late now, but we could probably ask at any point is during the pandemic when schools were primarily shut down, kids that were home, did they we had school, right? The school was very abbreviated. Mm-hmm. Did any of these kids go to work with their mom or their dad? Did they?
Parents weren't going to work either.
No, right. But like I took, my 7-year-old, but him and I showed him how to run wires. I showed him how to install equipment. Now he's 7, but I kind of said to him, hey, we're going to go to work together today. And I brought him into I was an essential business, so I still had to work. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to know if some of the parents during the pandemic used it as an opportunity to educate their children in the areas that are not traditional not history, not social studies, not English, but, more of these tech types of things, parents who are in a tech or vocational, since they're older, I can still refer to them as vocational trade.
My husband and I are in the midst of flipping a house. So all my kids now know how to use a chop saw, a nail gun, a paintbrush.
Yeah, those are
they
legit.
learned it all.
Those are legit skills.
Yeah, it was great.
I used a bandsaw in middle school.
Yeah.
Now, anecdotally, I told David this when I was in Westport under the Board of Finance, and we were considering redoing Staples High School. The cooking class, the kitchen for cooking, they wanted to increase the size of it like 4 times from what it was in the current school. And I remember saying, whoa. I mean, why are we doing this? And Allison Milway Grace, who's a Weston resident, is the instructor there. And she said, and the principal said, it's the most popular course in high school. There's a waiting list for kids who wanted to get in. Right?
Another life skill, learning how to cook.
Another life skill. So
all right. Well, before we get ourselves into a lot of hot water, potentially.
We're already there, I'm sure.
I just saw June pop in. I think June right now might be biting her lip saying, ooh, they're in trouble.
June's like, I'm going to cut this off at the knees right now.
Right.
So,
yeah.
All right. So let's just take a quick look. I only had one item for potentially new business that's not overly important, but it's more of a question than a discussion, is would there be interest in the communication committee asking the board if we could potentially schedule once per quarter I don't want to say coffee with the board, but rather than having people do public comment during a regularly scheduled meeting, I know that we have to be careful with the interactive part of meetings, but should we look at potentially scheduling once per calendar quarter a get together for an hour in person at the library, at the middle school, someplace where people just want to have a conversation with us? We can meet them, or maybe just meet your board of ed so that we become less mysterious to them, and it's not I'm saying it's not there's no agenda, there's no itinerary, there's
It's not political.
right, just show up. We have a 1 hour once per quarter get together. Whatever board members can show up. It's we'd have to find out from Melissa, if 4 of us show up, which would be my hope, at least 4 of us show up, then it's a board of ed meeting, but we've announced it. And it's just, a conversation with the board of ed, or, what I'm saying? I don't know the first part of the question that I wanted to just ask us as a group is, would there be interest in once per calendar quarter scheduling an hour someplace like the library or the middle school? And the purpose of it is just to meet your board of ed. It's not to discuss. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
preferably without the administration.
right, just the board of ed.
Yeah.
Just up to the 7 of us. And I think what we just have to be aware of is, obviously we want all 7 to show up. That might not always be possible, but if 4 of us show up, it's an official meeting. So I think as far as that goes, as long as we notify the public, we schedule it, then when do we have to take notes? So, really the first part of the question is there interest among us as a committee? And if so, then I can take it to the next level and ask Melissa, are there things that we haven't thought? Can we just simply notice the public, get together for an hour, meet your board of ed, set the parameters for what we can talk about so that we don't wind up in a situation where we have broken any rules, and just get Melissa's feedback on whether or not it's the intent is simply meet your board of ed.
I think we need to think about this, David. I think we probably should think about this and discuss this at the next meeting, because I think that there are, under the rules of transparency, what a fabulous idea. The reality is I'm a little nervous of how this could go sideways. I don't want to go there. I'm happy to go there and meet people. Nobody wants to go there and get ambushed. If we go there and people are asking us questions individually and we're answering individually, that we have to remember, it's really super important as a board member that we can't speak on behalf of the entire board. We can only answer questions that we ourselves, I feel this way. We have to preface everything with I. It's only the chairman of the board that can speak on behalf of the board. So we just have to, there are a lot of things we need to take into consideration, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So great idea, but let's noodle it and let's figure out, let's make sure that it's going to really be a positive for everyone if we do something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll ask Melissa from more of a procedural and legal perspective,
sure,
whether or not the risk is worth the reward.
Yeah.
And so I'll have that conversation with Melissa, and then I will let you all know at our next communication meeting if Melissa said, what her general feeling is on it. Because, yeah, I think it's the risk and the reward, right? There are rules that we have to abide by. And if we step outside of those accidentally, it opens us up, right? So I'll find out from Melissa the risk versus the reward.
Yeah.
Right. It's wonderful to have a lawyer on the board.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, with that, I'll move to adjourn our meeting.
I second.
Second.
All right.
Steve, they're never this long. Usually it's an hour max. This is the
No.
longest communications.
We talked about a lot of things that aren't communications, but I do think are important in terms of just overall educating the kids and getting kids engaged with stuff that Dan's doing, and it's all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one.
You too.